Welcome to Romera Records virtual cast. Today we have on Roman. How's it going, man?
Pretty good, pretty good. How about yourself, man?
I am doing well. Yeah, found you from Podmatch and basically saw the stuff that you do, and I wanted to make sure that you had a platform to talk about it on. So if you could, I guess just kind of get into how you got started and everything that you do.
Yeah, for sure. I'm involved in fitness, I'm involved in acting, modeling, but mainly the realms of, acting, modeling, and fitness. Those are my three things that I do mainly myself for my personal and professional career in my life. So how I got started in it, so I would have to say first, I actually got into fitness, but before that, I was not even really into fitness. Like I was always that guy, or really back then, that kid that would go to school, come home, and just kind of lounge around, eat whatever he saw, and just play video games, and that was about it, and then rinse and repeat. What really got me into working out, though, funny enough, was actually my younger brother. He started lifting weights, because him and I were pretty skinny growing up throughout school. So seeing him like actually pick the weights up and then over time make a gradual but really effective transformation, that actually inspired me to want to pick up the weights myself and just make a change on my body physically. Because seeing just the difference, like it was day and night. I mean, he used to be super skinny, and then I could see that he was getting some, definition, the striations on his biceps, just everything on his body. And that I was like, oh my gosh, like that's something I need in my life. So when I started seeing that over time, that really did, light that fire under me to actually finally pick the weights up myself. So that's what led me into the realm of actually, the physical activity or exercise aspect in fitness. Beyond that, though, my diet wasn't really in check. I didn't really have a clean diet. I will say I try to eat, more protein when I started lifting weights. Of course, it's like the common trend is to eat more protein if you're trying to build or gain muscle. But my, overall nutrition still wasn't good. Like I would still eat a lot of, foods that were not deemed the healthiest. So, that was something I was still very much lacking and struggling with at that moment. And I would still have a lot of sugary, high sugar foods. But what got me just to really clean up my nutrition, other than really investigating or really analyzing and researching what's in our foods and drinks, because there's a lot of, bad stuff, a lot of chemicals, artificial BS and bullshit that's thrown into what we eat, what we drink on a daily basis. So after really analyzing that and seeing, what is in our foods and what's in our drinks, that helped me kind of turn away from what I was eating and drinking because a lot of that stuff you can't even pronounce. So that alone, I'm like, okay, if I can't pronounce this, chances are it's probably not good for me, especially if I'm consuming it.
Hmm.
So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna at least tone it down a little bit on what I've been eating, what I've been drinking, no doubt. And then of course there was one other event in my life that happened back then that really, and this really, really was, the end all be all when it came to me eating unhealthy. This like totally changed me.
Hmm.
And it sucks it came to this. Obviously the circumstances weren't ideal. The result was good, but as far as like how it affected me in the long run, but yeah, my grandpa, someone I was really close to, he was also a heavy sugar addict. And so he had other stuff going on, of course, but him being so heavily and highly addicted to sugar, that actually led him to getting, or one of the main reasons he got stomach cancer. And because he had all that sugar in him, that actually helped just speed up that process of his stomach cancer and really accelerated it. And so, obviously he passed away at the end of it. He did, fight that cancer for a while though. So that was cool that he, fought through it as best as he could. But yeah, sadly he passed away at the end of it. But while that did take a mental toll on me, an emotional toll, as it, would for anyone, it also really inspired me at the very end to not want to go down that same, that same route, that same path, that same destination. And that really led me to not do that. And because of that, I realized, yeah, I don't want to go down that route. And I had a sugar addiction myself. So that was something I had in common. So I was like, okay, if I had that in common, that led to his ultimate, um, death and all those crazy things. I don't want to share that same fate. So I'm going to start making a change finally, like for myself and for my health. And because of that, I'm going to start helping myself so I can show up to events, show up to anything that I go to in life for myself and other people. So that way I can show up better and healthier. And then from there, I wanted to start inspiring people to do the same. Because after I started eating healthier, in addition to the workouts that I was already doing, that it just, I had a really healthy addiction then. So I went from having a sugar addiction to a healthier addiction
Mm.
with the, weightlifting, all the endorphins that you get from just exercise alone. But then the feel good energy that you get when you start eating cleaner, your body just basically, without obviously saying it, it's saying thank you, I mean, it's just amazing. Like you feel so much better, you feel so much more alive, and you feel so much more focused by the end of it. So all those things really led me to want to really go on a journey to help other people in the process. And so that's what got me into the fitness arena, but also the fitness coaching aspect of it too. And then from the acting and modeling side of things, I was not really into acting or modeling until I was about 18. I had some people like how I got into acting and modeling because I had some people that, of course, downplayed it and said, oh, those are so hard. Those goals are so hard to achieve. I doubt you'll make it, or it's probably not realistic. It's not a proper career path or a career goal. But I had a lot of people tell me at the same time that, you look like you could be on the cover of Men's Fitness, or you look like you could do some modeling. And that actually is what helped me further my fitness too, was the fact that I was trying to model. I found out that, if I weightlift, if I work out, that will actually increase my likelihood of getting any bookings for any gigs. So I was like, okay, this works hand in hand. I could even do some fitness modeling while I'm at it. So it all just kind of interconnected and really went together pretty well in harmony. And then, of course, modeling can lead into acting. So that's kind of what led me into acting just naturally. I was like, okay, if I can do some modeling and I'm doing some pretty good gigs here, I could probably check out some, acting too. And so I started with a commercial in my local area around Little Rock, actually. That's where my first agent signed me, was in Little Rock, just like my local agent. And I did a local smokeout commercial.
Mm.
So it actually, that also does go into healthy living, actually. It's kind of funny how that interconnects too. But then after that, I just branched out, did some, short films, feature films. And then I've done just recently, I've done some commercials, one for a men's shaving and trimming commercial, for a Sculpt Master brand. That's the brand of the trimmer. And I did that in Florida last month, or about a month and a half ago already. It's crazy how time flies. But yeah, that should be coming out in March, on ESPN nationally. And then I also got this other commercial I did for Terminix. It's a pest control service. So yeah, I've just been ever since just kind of bouncing between acting and modeling and fitness coaching and just kind of working them all together.
Dude, that's a lot to digest. Um,
Yeah.
so let's go back to when you were a kid and you said that you were just kind of eating whatever. What I guess that was going to be a bad. I was going to ask like what was going through your head, but like when you're a kid, not much. Is you're not really thinking about the future like that. You're not really thinking about like, oh, what are these Snickers and Reese cups doing to me? But you said eventually when your little brother was doing it, that's really when it kind of kicked into you. So I guess let's fast forward to that point when you realize that, the things that you were doing weren't the right things and eating right. Because I was like that. I was a football player in high school and I wanted to play college football. And then I'm 6 foot and I weighed like 240 and I was really fast. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to play college football. And then one day I just decided I didn't want to. And I was still 240 something. And I was like, I think I'm a little big for just no reason.
Yeah.
So I decided to really pay attention to what I'm eating and lose weight and stuff like that. And then it like hit me how much like food, I started learning more about what healthy food is and stuff like that. And it really hit me like the stuff I had been eating to gain weight. And then now, and even just like, bad preservatives and stuff like that other than food that I didn't know about that. And then I started learning more. So like, what what was going on in your head when you started learning about these things and started learning about what you should and shouldn't eat and how your body was able to handle all these different foods?
Yeah. Really, what was going on in my head? I was honestly at first not, I wouldn't say shocked, really, but I would say more just taken aback, at least slightly taken aback, just how bad, foods can be, especially in America. Because I know, like in Europe, I've never been to Europe. I want to go, but I have heard in Europe, though, from some people that I know that live there, and even some interviews I've done with some people from Europe, they say that, you know, the foods there, the preservatives are not as common. Like there's not as many preservatives, even in the unhealthier foods that we would say are unhealthy. They're healthier over there than they are here. Even like stuff like some candies. I think all artificial colors and flavors are banned in Europe, even for the unhealthier,
Oh my
things
God.
like candy. Yeah. And a lot of the, FD&C, blue number one, yellow number one, all those like crazy weird things that they throw into our ingredient list in our products that yeah, they're banned over there. So it's crazy that we're one of the few countries that allow it.
So I have a funny story about that. When I was in college, I was hanging out with a lot of golfers and I went to Jacksonville State University. It's in Alabama. And our entire golf team was all foreign kids except for like two of them. And
Oh
one,
wow.
yeah, or three. One was from Texas and the other two were from Tennessee. But the rest of the golf team, male and female, were all foreigners. Like they were from like Brazil, Argentina, Spain, and a couple were from England. And
Oh
so
wow.
the dudes from England, we gave them sweet tea, and so they're drinking it, and they're like, "This is awful." They're like, "You took something that was completely fine for you in tea, and you added sugar to it." And then the other one, he was talking about the bread, and he was really drunk. Like one time, I went to his place, and he was drunk when I got there, and he was like, "Look at this bread. It's been sitting on the counter for weeks, and it's not molded." And I was like, "Yeah, it's American bread." He was like, this would only last like 3 days in my country.
Yep.
It's just so funny.
Exactly. It's crazy that just like how different it is in other countries and how our country is so, built on convenience, but to a fault, actually.
Yeah, and
Mm.
and I think, you know, it fits certain people's lifestyle to be able to have that stuff, but I think that's also a problem. Like we're America, we've have built this culture of work, and that's like, okay, how can we get these people to work in these jobs to manufacture and create what we need and then just give them, vending machine food and stuff like that to survive while they work. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's a horrible work environments create horrible habits of like working 12-hour shifts. I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's a horrible idea because if you're working for 12 hours, that means you have another 12 hours to enjoy your life and sleep and get back to work.
Yep.
So so that's like it's just not enough time for a person to enjoy their life and get good quality sleep and cook the right amount of food and stuff like that. So yeah, like our work schedule and just American culture has created bad habits which create, unhealthy people.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%. And it puts a huge damper on just creativity and overall production when people work just those long, crazy hours.
So what have you I guess you were coaching first, or was that came before the acting? Like I know you told us about your fitness story first and then you said about the acting, but like did you start coaching or what were you doing sequentially?
Right, right. It's funny how it happened. So I got into like fitness, weightlifting first, but then I started doing acting and modeling. And then I actually went into the fitness coaching aspect right after I got into acting and modeling.
Okay, so with the when you're doing everything about learning about fitness, what were you really like prioritizing? Were you prioritizing what you ate, or were you prioritizing the weightlifting? Because I have friends who lift weights all the time, but they don't exactly eat healthy. And then
Oh yeah.
some people don't really understand that. They don't really understand like eating healthy, I think should be everybody's priority over lifting weights or even
Yep.
just exercising in general. Like, please, everybody exercise. But if you're going to do anything, eat healthy food first because you can live longer by just eating the right foods. I'll say this is just my opinion. I might be completely wrong. I'm just throwing this out there.
No, you're right on
Oh,
that. Yeah.
yeah, over just like eating horrible food and then just exercising. So, how did you prioritize when you first, had this light bulb go off about being healthy?
Right. Yeah, definitely. When I started realizing how detrimental or just how important the whole process was, to eating healthier and just being just healthier in general, I really started prioritizing my nutrition first. Before that, I was more just, okay, I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna weight lift, and then I'll just eat just however much I feel like I need to eat. But when I really got into analyzing what's in our foods and really just how to dial in your nutrition anyway, I started realizing that nutrition is actually even better. Like it's even more important than, exercising. Obviously, just like you were saying, not to say exercising is not important, but nutrition is number one. It's at least 80%, maybe even a little more for sure, of the whole pie, of working out and health and fitness.
Yeah, and I think if you don't prioritize it, you will not see the results, that you want to see. A lot of football players, they some of them don't look like the most jacked dudes, and then some of them do. And that right there will show you who's got the good nutrition and who doesn't. If you're just, lifting weights like crazy all the time, but you don't look ripped, it's probably because your nutrition isn't that good and you're probably eating way too many fats or too many carbs or too much sugar, and your body's burning that stuff, but it's not burning it at a rate that it should be. So again, going on those things, did you decide to not you seem like you know what you're talking about. So I kind of do want to get into the weeds. I can't always do this with some people. You looking at your macros, what are you doing as far as like breaking down the things that you're intaking?
Definitely. So depending on my goals, that will definitely just determine my macro breakdown. Now, usually, no matter what, whether I'm trying to, let's say, build muscle or maintain or even burn fat, I'm always having a high protein intake with my macros. So I try to always aim for at least really at least zero point 0.8, but really I do 1 gram per pound of my body weight at least because I'm super active and I lift heavier weights. So therefore, I usually have more protein because of that, and just to help maintain and even build muscle in the process. And then from there too, I try to make sure if I'm trying to bulk, I'll have about a moderate amount of fat and then higher carbs. Now, if I'm trying to cut, I'll keep the protein the same, and the fat's about the same, but lower the carbs. Not to say that you have to cut carbs to lose weight. That's just a way of balancing it out with your calories to lose weight. Now, you can do it different ways for like different people have different macro needs and breakdowns, but typically having more protein and then a moderate amount of fat and higher amount of carbs or lower amount of carbs is usually the easiest and best way to do it. Just depending. Like some people are diabetic, so they have to have it kind of switched around a bit. Some people prefer keto, not to say keto is necessary, but if that's something you like, that's fine. But I recommend just a high protein, balanced diet. That way you're getting in enough protein, you're satiated, you're helping your muscle growth and even recovery, but also too, you're not, lacking a certain nutrient or a certain macro that much. And really, a lot of these fad diets, just to bounce off of that again, a lot of these fad diets are not really the best and they're not really attainable for long-term results because they're very restrictive.
Yeah, and I tell people my story all the time of like when, let's see, this was like 2017. I was about probably like 12 to, I would say probably like 12% body fat, maybe a little more, or less. And I weighed like 220 something. I can't remember. And I decided I heard about the carnivore diet and I wanted to try it. So I did it for like 2 weeks. I got absolutely shredded. Like I probably got down to like 202 or 205 and like I was probably like 5% body fat. And I was like, I feel great, I look great, but my cravings for like dude, I was huge into broccoli and hummus and like carrots. I was eating a lot of hummus and like just vegetables, like certain ones. And I was craving it, and it was, like, almost like craving some people crave, like, candy or cookies and stuff. I was craving vegetables and stuff like this, and I tell people all the time, if your body's craving something, you probably need it, whatever it
Yep.
is. If it's something salty, your body probably needs salt. So, I was like, "Yeah, this is cool." Like, I look phenomenal, the best I've ever looked, but I don't think this is right. And I had heard about this from a Joe Rogan podcast with Sean Baker that he had like years ago. I said this around 2017. But yeah, I mean it was great, like the way I felt and looked. But I tell people all the time, best I ever looked, best I ever felt, but do not do this for a long period of time. Because number one, we don't have the research on it, on like you get a lot of nutrients from red meat because the animals that eat or that have red meat are eating a lot of plants. Like, if you have grass fed beef, cows are eating grass. So kind of ironic that you're on a carnivore diet, but you're eating things that are eating plants.
Right? It's crazy. It's crazy how that works.
But yeah, it just, as you said, fad diets, like do it if you're going to lose a lot of weight, and restrictive because you can introduce. So if you don't know what bread is doing to you, if you don't know if you have was like a gluten intolerance, then go carnivore and then just introduce a little bit of bread into your diet and see what happens to your stomach, because that's the best way to find that out. So introduce the thing that you might be intolerant to. But other than that, like I would not suggest eating those kind of diets for a long period of time. Just be an omnivore. That's what humans have evolved to. Like eat plants, eat meat, and do that.
Oh yeah, 100%. Just have that, high protein, balanced diet.
It's important that we do those things because like I think that the human body has evolved to, breaking down those things. And I actually just found out about beans. I don't know if you know this, but it's like we aren't meant to really process beans. And that's why we have so much gas when we eat beans. I was like, that's interesting. And I found out about almonds, like you aren't, or nuts in general, like you aren't supposed to eat a lot of nuts because they can take nutrients out of your body. Oh, dang, actually thinking of that. So I talked to a nutritionist about that kind of stuff. And I'm glad you said that you eat, what was it, 1 kilogram per pound of body weight, of protein, I'm sorry. A gram of protein
Yeah.
per body weight. And because I had talked to a nutritionist about that, and she was like, nah, that's a little too much protein. And I had heard this from like, do you know who Lane Norton is, or Andrew Huberman?
No, I think the second name sounds a little familiar though. I
Huberman.
think.
Yeah, he's a pretty popular guy. Again, these people were on like Joe Rogan's podcast, but they're very well known to be respected because they aren't the type of guys to push their own objective. They look at the research. So anytime they tell you something, they're like research shows or something like that. They're telling you something from studies. They're not just like I think you should do this. They're just saying research shows this. But yeah, both of them say like gram of protein per body weight or more than that. They might say um a gram and a half or more. So, but that nutritionist, she was completely against it. She said that that's way too much protein that a person should eat. But I'm glad you said that because I think some people don't believe that. So, have you found that that has worked for you over time? Is that much protein in your diet?
Yeah, I found that, having higher amounts of protein, not to say that you have like, and that's what I was saying, it just depends like on how much you lift and how active you are. I found that if you're not that active at all, like let's say you just don't work out, or even if you're somewhat active, I believe that you should have zero point 0.8 grams per pound of your body weight. Now, if you're more active, I would say at least 1 gram per pound of your body weight if you lift pretty heavy and you're super athletic. Basically, the more athletic you are, I feel like the more protein you should have, especially if you're trying to maintain and even build muscle. So I found that for me, it's helped me obviously satiate my hunger a lot. It's also metabolized the quickest, as you probably know. Protein has a highest thermic effect. So yeah, I found that, my metabolism's pretty good and it's usually pretty fast and it speeds up a lot whenever I have more protein. And it's really just helped keep me more lean, but also strong and muscular at the same time.
So what are some foods that you're eating to get that high protein? Some people might stick to red meats, or they might be well rounded, eat some chicken and fish, or a lot of people don't know about like yogurt. That has a lot of
Oh
protein.
yeah.
What are some different foods that you like to eat?
Definitely. So I kind of bounce between I might have quinoa, but typically what I usually have are once in a while some protein bars that are like healthy, like the RX bars, not like super often because I prefer to have, more quality protein from like chicken and meats. But I once in a while will have red meat, but typically I'll have more lean proteins like fish, maybe like salmon, tuna, white meat like grilled chicken. I'll also go ahead and have some Dave's Killer bread. That's where I can get a lot of my protein too and some carbs at the same time. And then I also have this yogurt. It's super, super good. I mean, it's funny, the name is Too Good. It's called Too
Mhm.
Good Yogurt. You may have heard of it. They come in so many different flavorings. And one of my favorite is vanilla. I get literally a whole tub of a whole tub of Too Good yogurt. I'll eat the whole thing because it's only 450 calories. So it's close to about a meal in itself. And I might just have that for lunch and then maybe a protein bar with it. Just depends. But yeah, that's typically a pretty good snack or even really a meal. And it has like 65 grams of protein and the whole thing. It tastes like there's sugar in it, but it's not like actual added sugar. It's all natural. And it's flavored with lemon juice and a lot of other healthy, really good stuff that just brings it to life. It's really good. And then of course I'll have like maybe some canned tuna if I'm pressed for time or canned chicken. Just kind of depends. Yeah.
Um, Dang, what is the name of that? Oh, the Dave's Killer Bread. Have you heard about how his business started? Like how he was making, like who Dave is?
Yeah, I found out, I think just reading the packaging, I
Oh,
think
okay.
it said something along the lines of him being in jail. And then I think he got out of jail shortly thereafter. He started his own business and hired, I think, people that were also felons onto his business, which I think is really good. I think that's something that we got to do more often. Not to get too political now, but I feel like that is just something we should do more in our country. Just across the board, I think giving people opportunities, it actually does intersect pretty well into what we're talking about because it's really good for people's mental health, to be able to do something productive for their society and put together something that they can get creative behind and help other people, especially when it's something like Dave's Killer Bread. I mean, great bread, at a decent price, and it's all natural, organic. I mean, that's another thing. I try to go organic too when I can. Pesticides, that's
Yeah.
something I found out, or it's just not the best thing to put in your body.
Yeah, I'd listened to I think it's How I Built This podcast, and he was on there, and I was like, man, that is hilarious because it's called Dave's Killer Bread, and he was in jail. I forgot what he went to jail for, but it's
Yeah.
funny if you tell somebody that and they're like, oh, did he go to jail for killing somebody? But yeah, he's got great bread compared to most. Then there's what's that other Ezekiel bread? Do you eat that?
Oh, yes. Yeah, if I don't have Days Killer bread, that's my go-to one is probably the Ezekiel bread and then Dave's Killer bread. Because the Ezekiel bread, I believe it has about, if not the same amount of protein, and it has no added sugar in it.
Hmm.
Now, of course, when I go with the Dave's Killer bread, I'll go with the Power Seed one because it only has like 1 gram of added sugar per slice. So it keeps it pretty low, and that's good for anyone. But yeah, the Ezekiel bread is it's great. Like that you can tell it's like fresh. It's as if it was just homemade. I mean, it's amazing. No sugar, just very low salt in each slice. And then the, protein, fat, and carb ratio is decent too.
Yeah, and if you've never made bread or never seen somebody make bread, it's exactly what you were describing earlier with your grandfather, right? Like with the cancer, because that's what yeast will feed off of the sugar that you put into it, and it's a living thing. That's what yeast is, and so the same thing with the cancer. Cancer cells feed off of sugar, and so it just helps them grow. And if people just understood, that biology of what's going on, then that will make more sense to them on why they shouldn't have as much sugar in their diet because it's literally feeding the cancer cells or feeding the bad things that can grow in your body. And it's like, hey, stop stop giving it a fuel source to survive.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's kind of scary when you think about it like that, but yet it's so true.
Yeah, and I've definitely been more conscientious of that. And I've also in Lane Norton, the guy I was talking about earlier, he's done some great research and posted some cool stuff about what's it call it? Artificial sweeteners. He's for it, but in moderation, I guess, depending on how your body reacts to it. And again, like what I was talking about with the carnivore diet, like do an elimination diet and start introducing things to your body to see how it reacts to it. And if you realize that something is bloating you or just making you feel like crap, just don't eat it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I heard a lot of the, sweeteners like circulose. That is not a good thing to really put in your body. I heard it makes digestion so much tougher and just a lot more challenging. Now, one that I actually can get behind is stevia or stevia,
Yeah.
and that's in moderation totally fine. Yeah, from what I found out.
Yeah, that one and monk fruit.
Yes, yes, monk fruit's really yeah, that's one that's actually pretty good too.
Yeah, those two I'm pretty confident with. And again, this is all just there is some data based off of what me and you are saying that we like, and then also is just from intake in your body. And some people like I was following some girl and she was talking about how I think it was either her pre-workout or like EAAs or BCAAs,
Oh yes.
the sweeteners and those were making her bloated, and then
Oh yeah.
oh yeah, I should probably just stop drinking these.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they put some crazy stuff even in things that seem and are deemed healthy to people. It's kind of sad. Like you can go to some gyms, like I'm going to Gold's Gym right now where I'm at, and I literally will go in and some of the stuff there is fine. Like some of the protein bars are I'd say moderately healthy, but you see some of these pre-workouts and some of the BCAAs, and they're filled with so much added sugar, so many, preservatives and so many artificial colors and flavorings. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, so we're at a health club or a gym, and then we're having this being sold to us. That's crazy. It's like smoking a cigarette after you work out. That's
Yeah, and I think it's mainly because these companies are trying to target people who are just now starting to lose weight, which I would say that's the majority of people. The majority of people are overweight in America who are, coming into a gym who are going to buy that kind of stuff. Like most people who are already fit and stuff aren't probably going to buy that kind of stuff at a gym. It's the people who are like just trying to get into it who are probably going to buy that stuff constantly. So, because they need somebody to tell them what to eat, and they're like, "Oh, if it's at the gym, it's got to be healthy." So,
yeah.
they're
It's sad, but true. Yeah, that's their target audience,
yeah. So
and they know it too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, they're gonna have that kind of stuff there, and one that it kind of makes me upset that people are really into it is dang, I think it's called like Fit Crunch or something. It's a buff dude, and he's a chef and
Okay.
it's a protein bar. I can't remember the name of it, but I think it's like Fit Crunch or whatever. But um, yeah, I think he wears glasses, has like white hair, but he's on the cover of those. But those are marketed as like healthy protein bars. But I looked at the ingredients, I was like, no, this is not.
Yeah. Nope. Nope.
And then also like the Lenny and Larry cookies, like there's so much sugar in those,
Oh yeah.
and people
It's
look at
nuts.
yeah, they look at those like they're super healthy, but I'm just picking on certain ones. But there's so much stuff out there that's
Oh
marketed
yeah.
as healthy stuff that's really not.
Yeah, even the Cliff Bars, like, oof, so much added sugar in that, like 20 grams of added sugar sometimes and up. And I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that though. I don't know about that.
Yeah. And so something that I've stuck to that I've heard is 30 grams of sugar per day. That's all you should intake in a day. What are you trying to hit? Like I know you said you used to be as a kid addicted to sugar. I'm sure you probably have some sugar, but like what do you allow yourself to have when it comes to sugar?
Yeah, I try to keep my added sugar. Of course, not all sugar is created equally. Of course, there's, fructose, the natural sugar found in fruits, even vegetables to an extent. Um, and then there's the added sugar that we get, sucrose. So I try to, of course, prioritize having more fructose than anything when I have sugar. But I even try to limit that. I try to have, as far as fructose goes, I try to have maybe 2 to 3 cups total, if you were to measure it, 2 to 3 cups of fruit a day. Now, when it comes to like the added sugar, I definitely limit that. I really limit that to, I try to not go any higher than 10 grams a day. So I'm like pretty strict on it. I'll usually have, for example, the Dave's Killer bread or Ezekiel bread to help keep that low.
Hmm.
The power seed if I go with Dave's Killer. And then from there, I just try to make sure that I, because I'll have like some almond butter or maybe on occasion some organic peanut butter. So I try to make sure that it has 1 gram or less because you can even get some almond butter with no salt or sugar added. So I try to opt for that. And then just make sure from there that I'm just eating foods that have like maybe 1 to 2 grams of sugar at most in a whole serving or none. And that's how I keep it to a minimum. But of course, I still enjoy life and have, foods and drinks that would taste like they have sugar in them, but they don't. They're just more natural sweeteners. Like, for example, that yogurt, you would swear there's sugar in it, but there's no added sugar. It's just sweetened with lemon juice, and there's some other stuff in it for the ingredients that I can't remember, but they're like natural sweeteners to you.
Hmm.
But it's amazing. But it's cool because like I've noticed too, just to bounce off of what I just said with sugar, I noticed ever since I started cutting down my sugar and maybe not eliminating it, but basically eliminating most of my sugar intake, I'm not as hungry. I just don't crave as much food just in general. And then also my energy's better. I feel better. I feel more focused and even sleep better. Like there's so many like benefits to, not necessarily getting rid of sugar, but really drastically eliminating uh, sugar.
Something that happened to me was I started tracking my macros, and I thought that what makes me have more fat on my body was eating excess like carbs and sugar. But I found out that I eat way more fat than I thought I was eating, and I actually don't eat that many carbs, and I don't have that much sugar. I was
Yeah.
like, "Whoa." Like, I thought I was eating a lot of sugar and carbs. I guess it's just because, like, guilty conscience, like, if I would eat, a muffin or some cake or cheesecake or something like that. But when I realized it, I was like, "Oh, I only do this on, like, the weekend." Like, that's, like, the only time I eat sugar. And I didn't realize it because I guess I was just indulging on it on the weekend, and then when I started tracking it, I was like, "I'm just eating too much fat." Like, I eat a lot of
Yeah.
and I didn't even realize it. Did you have any kind of situations like that when you were like, "Oh, man, I'm eating way too much of this," and not even realizing it?
Yeah. So, yeah, because I really got after I got really into the healthy lifestyle of eating and what I was drinking too, I started realizing that after I was tracking my food and what I was drinking, and if I would have maybe like a slice of cake, let's say for my birthday or something, when that would come up, literally I could go the whole week and not have any, sweets or anything like that. And then just have a slice of cake on the weekend, maybe two, for like when my birthday came around. And then after that, I started feeling like I had so much sugar throughout the week
Yeah.
because it's so weird because psychologically, even if you don't have, a lot of sugar or a lot of servings of that, sugar, by that time when that comes, when you actually do indulge a little bit and maybe even just one or two slices, your body, it's like your mind's telling you with your body that you had all this sugar and that you just totally messed up your diet, so to speak. It's really crazy. And then you feel like you gain some fat right after. It's weird because psychologically I've had that, or even outside of like my birthday, I've had some events that I would go to, maybe like a family get together, and they had like some pies or cupcakes. And so I might have one or two when I was at, that event. And so after that, I was like, oh my gosh, I probably put on a pound. Even though I know I didn't, it's like I felt like I did. And then by extension, when your mind's so powerful. So after I, started thinking those thoughts and having those thoughts, then I started feeling literally like physically feeling like I gained fat. And I'm like, this is weird, but I don't believe I did, but I feel like I did. Yeah. So, but then after I tracked it, I'm like, yeah, there's no way. I mean, it's only like one or two cupcakes. I mean, maybe a few hundred calories more than I should have, but I mean, I couldn't have gained any fat. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I guess it's just something that when you're trying to eat healthy and be strict with it, and you kind of cut loose, your brain is telling you like, hey, you've messed up and all this stuff, but in reality, you have to tracking things is something I would definitely tell people to do because I didn't do it for the longest. Like
Oh yeah.
I'm 31, and I think the first time I'd actually tracked stuff was last year or 2 years ago, something like that. And it really opened my eyes to what I was doing. As I said, I was not eating nowhere near as many carbs and sugar as I thought I was. I thought I was like just eating a ton of carbs and sugar. And then I found out I wasn't, but I was eating way too much fat than I should have. So definitely suggest people to do that. So also you just mentioned drinking. Like what do you drink on a daily basis? I'm a water and orange juice person. That's pretty like water, orange juice, and almond milk. That's pretty much the only thing I ever drink. So what do you drink?
Nice. Yeah, what I usually drink, obviously you probably have seen it a few times already. So I'll have some coffee just in the morning. 1 to 2 cups. about. This is about the equivalent of two. So I'll usually go from 1 to 2 cups in the morning a day. I try not to have any more than that because too much caffeine obviously is not good for anyone. And I also try to make sure it's early on enough where it doesn't really affect my sleep later on in the day. And I always cut it before 2 p.m., but I'd even say before noon that way. Because if you don't cut it early on enough, it does affect your sleep, especially if you already deal with sleep problems. So that's something that I definitely keep to a minimum, but I'll have that. And then beyond that, I'll have a lot of water. I try to aim, and not to say you have to have a gallon. It just kind of depends on your fitness goals, how active you are. Especially if you're in a drier climate, then definitely more water. But I usually aim for about close to, but really a gallon of water a day. And then I try to also include some milk, maybe 1 or 2 cups a day at the most. And sometimes orange juice every now and then, because I actually love orange juice as well.
Dude, yeah,
Yeah, there's nothing like it.
orange juice, like that's my I could drink that for every meal possible.
Oh yeah.
So when you say milk, what kind of milk are you drinking?
Yeah, I bounce between two different kinds. Um, usually I'll have organic milk. Typically it really just depends. Because like certain stores have different organic brands. But if I'm at like a Ralph's or a Kroger, just depending where I'm at in the country, um, I'll usually have Simple Truth organic milk, the generic version of organic milk. So that's pretty good. I usually aim for 2% or whole milk. I don't really go lower than that because then it just doesn't really taste that good. Not to say that the other types of milk aren't, good. I mean, they're all good in their own way, depending on how much, fat you want from that milk. But I do try to go for more 2% or whole milk because there's usually more nutrients in that too, and it just tastes better. So that's usually what I go for when it comes to milk, or I might go with Fairlife milk and go with the 2% or whole milk of that because there's 13 grams of protein, and that's a um, pretty healthy milk to you across the board.
Yeah, whoever, started Fairlife, God bless you, because like
Yes.
they they somehow figured out how to make good milk that wasn't like too high in fat. Like they cut the fat by like 50% or something like that. And they reduced the amount of sugar that a lot of like whole milk or whatever will have in it. And I was like, this is insane. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy, which in general, like food products, it's crazy that we're in 2024 and we've been eating food ever since we've been created. And it's still taking us this long to like figure out how to like in or create the food with less of the bad things and more of the good things. And I mean, even when we first started making like whey protein shakes, there are some that are still being geared toward the taste, so they don't have the best ingredients in it. But then there are some like, have you ever had naked protein? It's
No, I don't think so.
Their brand is really good. I had to tell one of my friends about it because she was really big into that kind of stuff. But Naked brand is literally like what the company is called. Like there's pretty much nothing in it, but
I've heard of it though, I think. I feel like I've seen it on at least a few store shelves.
yeah.
Yeah.
And again, taste, do not intake that by itself because it's not because it's literally what it is. Like if it says whey, that's all that's in there, and it does not taste good. But I would suggest trying that out if you're trying to reduce the amount of ingredients and stuff in your food. Naked makes some great stuff as far as like not having ingredient, but taste wise, like you want to mix some like honey or vanilla, like straight vanilla with it, or something that'll give it some good taste. But great product by itself. But yeah, it's crazy how long it's taken us to create these type of things that don't have all the bad preservatives or whatever in it just to give us a good taste with good food. As you were talking about, like with your Too Good yogurt, like I'm not sure when they started, but like it took us, that long. People have been making yogurt for forever. So, and then even like Greek yogurt, like I love Greek yogurt because it's got less fat in it and more. I get 0% fat yogurt, Greek yogurt, and it's got a lot of protein in it. So, and I get the unflavored, and sometimes I'll mix granola with it. Sometimes I'll just eat it by itself, or I substitute it for sour cream. It's a great substitute for sour cream.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's crazy because that Too Good yogurt that I actually get, I didn't notice it back then. I don't think it was actually available for, I mean, it took a while for me to see that actually in stores. I think when I first saw it, I think I was like 20. So I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, at least, before I first saw it.
But yeah, that's crazy. And also just like it takes you that long to realize that it's there when you aren't looking for it. Like if you aren't looking for healthy alternatives, then you're like, "Oh man, this is new," but it's probably always been there. You just weren't looking for it.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing too.
Yeah, if you start looking for things, then you'll find it. But if you aren't looking for it, you probably didn't think you ever noticed it. But I do want to get into some of your acting stuff because I think that's also really cool how you've kind of transitioned into that. So what are some things that opportunities that are opened up, like you were going over some of that earlier, but things that you've been excited about doing in the past, and then also that you have coming up with your acting?
Yeah, no doubt. So yeah, just recently I did, it was actually just a few weeks ago, I did a Terminex commercial. Um, yeah, just in my local area when I was in Little Rock. I did that just a few weeks ago when I came back for my birthday to see family around Little Rock. And so that was a lot of fun. Just acted like I was a pest control technician, just kind of looking for just looking for insects or pests. And so that was cool. Just getting that. Can't wait to see that on TV. Before that, I actually did, yeah, a men's shaving and trimming commercial for a brand called, what was that, Sculpt Master. So that's going to be on ESPN nationally, should be in March, probably mid-March, about. So that was fun, just going to Orlando. I did that in January, so I did that about a month and a half ago. So that was a lot of fun too. Before that, I've done, some short films. I've even done some feature films. I was in a movie, the upcoming film called Reagan. It hasn't been released yet. COVID pushed it back some, and also the strike, I think, did a little bit of that too. But with all that being out of the way and the strike, I think the strike's finally done. So with all that finally being a thing, I think it's set to release sometime early or maybe in the summer of this year. So yeah, I was a Secret Service agent in that film, and I was actually acting alongside Ronald Reagan. He was being played by Dennis Quaid. So that was so awesome, like super cool. They actually gave me a real life Uzi. I didn't obviously have it loaded, thank God, but I just acted like I took it out of its, container or case, picked it up, cocked it, and then started aiming, and acting like I was gonna shoot in the distance.
Mm.
So that was so neat. That was so fun.
Speaking of that, something that I thought was super unfortunate was what's that dude's name? Alex, who he had killed somebody on set on accident. Did you hear about that?
Oh yeah, let's see, Alex.
Or Alec, one of the two.
Yeah, Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, Alec Bald. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, how unfortunate!" Because he didn't he didn't have the gun in his possession at first. Like somebody gave him the gun, and apparently it was just so happened to be loaded, and he killed him. I was like, "Dude, not
Yeah,
his
that's
fault," but
nuts.
still he did it though. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, did
Yeah.
what kind of thoughts were running through your head with like having I mean, I'm sure you weren't like, "Oh man, I might accidentally kill." Not that. How was the experience of just being able to be like a Secret Service person and having a gun on set and all that kind of stuff? Like I would assume Some guns are like prop guns in some movies, and as you said, it was a real
Yeah.
it's not loaded. So what do you think? Did everything meet your expectations?
Yeah, I was honestly, I was thrilled. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome." I mean, at first I wasn't sure what to expect. It was just like a briefcase I was given. I'm like, "Okay, cool. I guess I'm just gonna hold this." They're like, "Okay, so you're gonna hold it, but then you're gonna just drop it on the ground, you're gonna open it, and you're gonna take out a gun." I'm like, "Okay." And they're like, "Yeah, and it's a real life Uzi too." I'm like, "Oh, cool." So then I just picked it up and I was like, "Holy man, they're not lying." Yeah, and I believe it was from I think it was from World War II.
Dang.
Yeah, that they even had. Yeah, it was one of those Uzis. I'm like, "Oh my God, this is nuts." Yeah. So I was like, "This is crazy."
So how do you?
Yeah, it
Is it
was
your
it was
agent?
interesting.
Is it your agent that's landing you the gigs?
Yeah, that one actually I got through one of this was actually cool. I got this from one of my friends who actually knows one of the casting people. So
Mm,
that's how I actually got that. Beyond that, though, I've been getting a lot of my auditions and gigs through my agents in Atlanta and then two in Florida.
okay. Yeah, and that's something that a lot of people don't understand when it comes to getting opportunities. They think like, you either just have to be the best or you just don't get opportunities. But like sometimes you need to use other people. Like other people's job is to do things to put people in place to get opportunities. And some people don't think about that. They're like, "Oh, if I'm a musician, I just have to be amazing or else I can't perform at these shows." Like, no, you need an agent or somebody that's going to help you get those opportunities or you need to know people. That's why like the phrase is really true of it's not what you know but who you know,
Oh
and
yeah.
those you having an agent has landed different gigs to give you opportunities.
Definitely. Yeah, it's cool because, those agents, any legitimate, solid agent that represents you will actually get paid, yeah, a set commission or a set amount for if they book you. And that's what's really cool because it motivates them to want to get you gigs so they can get paid too. So it's a really good win-win situation.
Exactly, yeah, and I think that understanding that, understanding the business side of it, it helps people do more in their industry, whatever career field they're in. uh,
Definitely.
so let's go ahead and wrap this up. Go ahead and give everybody like your info as far as like contact stuff, social media, websites, whatever you got, man.
Definitely. So yeah, if you want to find out more about me, what I do, first off, if you just want to connect with me one-on-one, you can actually find me at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, or even LinkedIn at Roman Fischer Official. So just connect with me on there, follow me, like, subscribe if you're on YouTube. Beyond that, if you want to find out more about me, what I do, and just all the clients I've helped with their testimonials, progress pics, and if you also have some fitness goals and you also want to get results, then go to my website, romanfisherofficial.com, and you can fill out a consultation form from there. And yeah, we can get started on your goals.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about fitness and then also talking about just health in general, because I think that's super important that people get that information. And you gave away a lot of information about what you eat and how you eat and just being well-rounded in general. And then also your acting stuff, that was pretty cool. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
No doubt, no doubt. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in and we'll see you next time.